If I can have your attention, please. If I can have your attention, we're going to continue now with our awards. Thank you very much. My name is Keith Burton, and I have the honor of being a co-chair along with Ron Culp and Bill Heyman of this dinner, and have over the past 8 years. And tonight I want to call your attention to our awards ceremony. 8 years ago in 2010, and our first dinner, the dinner we wondered if we would sell out, and we did, to start this wonderful legacy that the Plank Center has built with Milestones and Mentoring. We honored three very special people that evening with our Legacy Award, Harold Burson, Dan Edelman, and Al Golin. And this year in April, we lost Al Golin, one of the great leaders of our business. I will tell you a personal story. Before I went to Golin Harris many years ago, and Rich Jernstedt and others will remember this, I went and interviewed with the firm, but I said to the people who were there, I really want to spend time with Al Golin. I'd heard so much about him. I'd competed against him for many years in Chicago. And so I went to lunch with him, and I can't tell you how charmed I was. One of the things that he said in that lunch about his own philosophy in life was, it was a Woody Allen line, but it was one that he lived by. And that line was, if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That really was his philosophy about life. And as you talk to people about Al Golin and his legacy, you'll learn that he was really the real deal, the authentic leader in all that he did. And we love him and miss him. In fact, Bridget Coughing and I were over at Golin this past week, and as I walked through the executive offices, I noticed his carrel, which was open and vacant. And his legacy was not there, but certainly his memories are. Tonight, I want to share with you a special tribute to him, and we'll start this now.
Yeah, right. The clapboard or something. They call it. You're supposed to yell quiet on the set or something like that. So it sounds like a real, like this is really big time stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Directly into the camera. Okay.
How do you describe a legend like Al in 3 words?
Genuine, humble,
engaging,
hilarious,
generous, dedicated,
honest,
wise,
Curious,
compassionate, loyal.
I always like to say, fix it before it breaks, with the idea that it takes courage to change things when you don't think they need changing.
He wanted us to look forward. He wanted us to strive. He wanted us to take risks.
The thing that would make Al most proud about Golin today is that we are looked at as an innovator, as somebody that does, as he suggested, fix it before it breaks.
Just the other day, we were talking about something, and I thought, gosh, if I could just ask Al.
What sticks with me is that he proved that you can be a good guy and still be successful in this business.
I feel a greater sense of responsibility for this company, and I think the same is true for our 3 CEOs, because now you want to maintain it in a way that Al would be proud of.
Okay. You ready to roll, or you? I think if there's a lesson to be learned in life about any relationship, it's be yourself, and you'll never go wrong being there.
Join with me in welcoming Gary Rudnick, who's one of the co-CEOs of Golin, who has a few words to share about Al.
Hi, everyone. I was fortunate enough to work with Al for 21 years, and that was at the twilight of his career, the last 21 years, and to sit right next to him for the last several of those years. And I learned so much from him, and I just feel incredibly lucky to have called him my friend, to have called him my colleague, and to call him my mentor. Al received many well-deserved accolades and awards throughout his career, including tonight. And the attributes that led to those honors, strategic, smart, wise, insightful, compassionate, caring, curious, they were all absolutely true. He was all of those things, as you can tell from the comments in that video. But what I miss most about Al was really none of those things at all. What I miss most is Al's sense of humor, and those of you who knew him can appreciate that. He was a genuinely funny man. He wasn't trying to be, he just was. And because, as you heard from him on just moments ago in that video, he believed in the mantra, always be yourself. And Al always was that. And he was a damn funny guy as himself. Al and I shared a love for classic old school comedians like Don Rickles and Mel Brooks, and we used to laugh about them together. Of course, Al had worked with both of them at some point in his career personally, which I had not. I don't think I was born. But Al's humor went beyond an appreciation for comedic talent. He was a natural, and his humor was both disarming and a very powerful business weapon. He would use his humor to make you laugh, to make you feel comfortable, to put you at ease, and to make you his friend. And then he would deliver his wisdom, or he would sell the idea, or he would win the account after he had you in that place. And it was truly a pleasure to watch, and it was a lot of fun. There are dozens of stories about Al's humor that I could talk about, just a few, like when he flipped over backwards in a leather chair at a new business meeting once. And he stood up unfazed and said, "For my next trick," to a room that was totally flat. But that was him. He won the account. Or the time he mistook a very new Golan employee for a client at a crowded reception. And when the young man said he actually worked for Golan, Al joked in his very dry way, "Well, what the hell am I talking to you for?" Point me to the clients. Or the opening lines of many of his speeches in his later years. He'd say, "Thank you very much. At this age, I'm just happy to be vertical." And he'd open it that way all the time, and he'd think it was the first time he had ever said it, but it worked every time. He just had a way of making people smile. I miss his self-deprecating style and how truly unimpressed he was with himself. He was a regular guy. He was a nice guy, an interested guy, and a brilliant guy. And in this business, we need more of those kinds of people. So if you take one piece of advice from Al today, make it the last part of that video. Be yourself, and you'll never go wrong if you do. And hopefully you can make a lot of people laugh along the way, just like Al did, and that's really, like I said, what I miss most about him. So thank you to the Planck Center on behalf of Al, on behalf of his wife June, his family, his Golan family, and all of the people in this industry that he impacted and made smile over all those years. Thanks.
Every year I stand here and I show you the award that is handed out to our recipients. And if our camera people can show you, it's a compass. And I show it to you because that was Betsy Planck. She was the true north in what we do and all that we do. Quick story on that. In 2007, some of you were with me, Gary Grates, for example, and Bill Heyman and others. I chaired the PRSA International Conference in Salt Lake City, and on my programming committee was Betsy Planck. Can you imagine having Betsy Planck, who was the first lady of PR, on your programming committee? She had a lot to say. And so as we planned out that event, I asked her if I could get together with her in Salt Lake City when we went out, and she said, sure. So I got out to Salt Lake City. I went to the conference hotel, and I couldn't find her. I looked everywhere for her. And the attendees and the board said, well, she's not here. I said, where is she? Oh, she's over in the hotel with the students, with the Public Relations Student Society of America. That was always her philosophy, not to be with the professionals, but to be with the very men and women who would be the future of our business, to encourage, to mentor them, to be all that they expected, and to help them in their work. She did, in fact, found PRSSA, in addition to being one of the true iconic leaders of PRSA and of our business. What we believe, and it's epitomized, I think, in this program tonight, is our values in engaging others really is reflective of Betsy in this award. Again, this compass: truth, integrity, courage, caring, imagination, judgment, and leadership, all qualities that we value so deeply in the work that we do. I'm proud of my colleagues on the board and the work that we do that Ron talked about earlier, and always deeply proud to be affiliated with Betsy Plank. So tonight we will honor 6 wonderful men and women. These honorees will include on the legacy front Bill Nielsen, on the agency front Grace Leong, on the emerging leader front Megan Newhouse. The Bruce K. Berger Educator Award will be Dr. Linda Hahn. The John Jack Coaten Award for the corporate leader will be Jeff Winton, and on the executive front, Cheryl Backhelder. And with this, we'll start now with our awards as we move forward.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Gabe, and it is my great honor to share in this tribute to Bill Nielsen and to all of tonight's distinguished recipients. I've known Bill, his wife Doris, his youngest daughter Jordan, for nearly 35 years, Bill. Yikes. Oh my God. First as a colleague at the venerable Carl Bayer, then as a client of my own firm when he was at Johnson & Johnson, and for many years now as a friend. I am also so pleased that my husband and partner, Jim, is here tonight. He too puts Bill atop the category of most esteemed friend, colleague, and coach. Many of you in this room know Bill very well. You may have benefited from his support and knack for connecting people, been guided by his insight. You might have been touched by his kindness and compassion, or been inspired by his boundless optimism, enthusiasm, and smarts. And if you have, you also know this to be true. In his humility, he is impossible to thank. I am not alone in this experience. When Bill asked me to introduce him, his second words were, "Now look, this shouldn't be about me." But Bill, that sly way you have of deflecting attention back on someone else isn't going to get you off the hook. I am going to toot your horn. Bill has influenced so many lives over the years, mine for sure. There's no handy mentor tip list that applies to him. He just does mentoring by Bill. And it doesn't get better than that. He is a case study, if there ever was one, of the hallmarks of a gifted mentor and coach. Here's what I mean. Bill is admired for speaking truth to power. Now, this is a term that gets bandied about a lot these days. It dates back to our founding fathers and is, in essence, how Bill models behavior. He is unfailingly confident and courageous, honest and honorable. His passion and commitment and risk-taking, always accompanied by tact and diplomacy, are aimed at doing the right thing, not ever what's expedient or self-serving. When he sees an idea, and I've seen him do this many times, that he instinctively knows is, let's say, off, he pounces, persevering with reasoned comment, and most important, prepared with a clearly superior idea that he just pulls out of his back pocket. Never pompous or pious, Bill offers up his vast knowledge of business, management, life, with a dollop of wit, which to this Boston girl means he has a wicked sense of humor. Bill speaks his truths to all manner of powerful people with a rare combination of humility, sensitivity, and generosity of spirit. He always expands the center of attention beyond himself to agency partners, his internal team, colleagues, friends. In doing so, he elevates the function of counselor and boosts the recognition and the confidence of the people around him. This happens because of his unfailing ability to build trust. His clients, whether in the corporate boardroom or the executive suite, seek his opinion because they recognize his commitment to helping them do their genuine best. Those of us who've worked with him know he's got our backs. He's a leader who helps people realize their potential and gives effusive credit where it's due. He earns trust, yes, but he bestows it too. It's just in Bill's nature to create extraordinary opportunities. He doesn't spoon feed them. He opens doors, he steps aside, and he expects you have the perception and the wisdom to walk through and make things happen. The consummate connector-in-chief, he'll say, "How can you not know so-and-so? You need to know so-and-so. They need to know you." Sometimes Bill has more confidence and faith in us than we have in ourselves. He is an astute observer and a thoughtful listener. He builds 360-degree relationships in the most informal ways by inserting himself with little suggestions. You might consider this. Have you thought of that? He makes you think, and your thinking is better for it. Don't speak until you really know what you know and know the business, a classic caution and pointer from Bill. He is a master at this, sizing up the situation and at just the right moment delivering truly dazzling aha advice. I recall a project where a management team was devoid of clear strategic direction. Now, none of us in this room can imagine a thing like that ever happening. There were very lofty expectations for the PR people, though, but no clear pathways to success. Bill said, "You know the lay of the land. Figure it out. It won't be the first time someone in PR created a corporate strategy." His influence is epic. As a talent spotter, career launcher, and industry advocate. If he has his way, communicators are at the table on a par with all parties of influence in matters of reputation and perception, especially the lawyers. And he tirelessly walks the talk, demonstrating by doing how professionals can and should devote time and skills to the betterment of society. You get what you give, and Bill has given untold time, often influencing the course and success of a nonprofit or someone's life. Bill is a treasure. In these times of often raucous, painful discourse and change in the corporate, geopolitical, cultural, societal landscapes, Bill's deeply held values, personal qualities, and humanity are more crucial than ever. The example he sets extends beyond the professional to all of life. Quite a legacy. Since we're in Chicago, I thought it appropriate to cite your own hometown oracle, Oprah, who once summed it up best. A mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. That's Bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, for those very kind remarks. It took me a while to figure out she was trying to talk about me. I appreciate all that background. And thank you all for being here tonight. I am very proud and moved by this honor, and I sincerely appreciate the decision of the advisory board to add my name to the legacy of this great organization. I mean that sincerely. I also think it's important to give a shout out to, on behalf of our profession, to all of the work and the support that we receive from the College of Communication and Information Services at the University of Alabama. You have spread Betsy's vision and influence in many different places, and we are all better off for the commitment that you have done that. So to all of you who cheer for the Crimson Tide, thank you very much on behalf of our profession. I have to say that standing here in the shadow of Betsy Plank is very daunting. You'll recall it was President Lincoln who taught us to think about shadows from that were cast by tall trees as an attempt to explain what reputation was all about. He reminded us that the shadow was what we thought about the thing, but the tree was the real thing. Well, Betsy Plank was the real thing. And although she wasn't a giant in terms of stature, she cast a very long shadow that continues to be seen through the enormous contributions that she has made to the growth and the development of our profession, and to the development of so many who practice in our field of public communications. Her genius was that she believed in nurturing the tree and not just the shadow. To be seen in that light of her shadow is, I have to tell you, very humbling. In the 40 years since I've been practicing, I have developed a huge passion for our profession, starting in the Air Force as a public information officer, and then with the firm Carl Bayer and Associates, and then Hill and Knowlton, and then finally landing at Johnson & Johnson, where I found a credo that perfectly framed in my mind the importance of what we do and how it relates to the development of corporate cultures. But that's another speech. Along the way, I've been fortunate to play leadership roles in many of the organizations that surround our profession, including the Institute for Public Relations, the Arthur Page Society, the Seminar, and now with the Arthur W. Page Center for Integrity in Public Communications at Penn State. Through all of these experiences and with all of the people that I have seen, I have come to believe that our profession, this thing we do, is a calling that demands our acceptance of a number of responsibilities for who we are, what we believe, and the importance of the essential skills that we bring to the organizations that we represent. Our field, you see, is different from other functions of management, largely because we are driven by a strong sense of purpose and by the singular objective that we have of helping our organizations to be successful in their chosen fields of endeavor. This, I believe, is a very high calling, especially in these times with such disruption in our society. I don't know if we could possibly count the number of ways in which mentoring and mentorships have become so important to our practice, but also to our future. In the midst of such turbulent times, we, I believe, are at the very center of this stormy moment with the skills and the values to help find the way forward. We need to listen carefully and hear clearly the voices of every constituent group. We know there is great disaffection and loss of trust, but we also know there is great promise. These times demand the very best from us, from each of us, we must commit to meeting that demand and to answering our calling with the unique skills that we have and the values that we hold. In the face of the loss of trust and the disruptions in society, our duty to mentor takes on enormous responsibility and consequence. We must assure the development of a new generation of young women and men who are devoted to the truth and integrity in public communication. The truth and fact-based reporting should be the irrefutable standard for all those who take on the responsibility of communicating with the public. This is the standard against which all should be measured, and especially those who choose to enter our field. I truly believe we represent the hope for the restoration of public trust in all facets of society, in the institutions that make up the structure of our society, as well as the clients that we seek to serve. This is a high calling and a very important responsibility. It is, frankly, a responsibility that is simply too big to fail. Part of meeting that responsibility is to find the very best and the brightest, to mentor them in ways that will instill our values and to help them find the opportunities to begin developing their careers. That's why I am so appreciative of what you are doing through the Planck Center, and why I am so deeply honored and so happy to be with you this evening. Thank you very much.
My name is Allison Park. I lead the worldwide corporate affairs team at Mars Wrigley Confectionery. Maybe a company you haven't heard of, but with Halloween days away, hopefully you've started to stack up on M&M's, Snickers, Twix, Starburst. I'll just stop there. I'm lucky to have a really sweet job. But over 20 years ago, I was starting out as a fresh-faced young Southerner in New York City. And I was even luckier at the time to have an even sweeter boss and mentor, Grace Leon. Grace is known for her passion, her quest for excellence, her endless energy. She leads and inspires by example, has an infectious work ethic that makes those around her want to try harder, and she is a true advocate for our industry. You know, a lot has changed in the past 20 years from when I first started with Grace as my boss. Thankfully, we're no longer assembling clip reports using whiteout and a copier. And I hope you're like me, where I'm no longer mailing slides and a press release to a reporter to pitch a story. But what hasn't changed is what sets Grace apart and what makes her a leader in our field. She is CEO and partner of Hunter Public Relations with responsibility for 120 employees, over 100 brands, and it's the second largest consumer practice in the United States. Somehow she and her husband Todd have raised 4 children, all whom are teenagers today. And whether it's giving back to her alma mater, which is the University of Delaware, or giving back to mine, the University of Florida, she is a true advocate for a career in the field of public relations. She taught me to dream big, hold true to my values, focus always on client service, be selective, and that no job, even diving into a dumpster, is too small. You're not here to hear from me tonight. It's my honor to welcome to the podium this year's agency honoree, Grace Leon.
Thank you, Allison. It's a pleasure to accept this award from you, not only because you're a wonderfully accomplished professional, but you're also a caring and compassionate mom. And that means the world to me as another mom. So thank you, Allison. You know, if you come to my office in New York City, you will see a quote from Picasso hanging next to my monitor. And the quote says, "The purpose of life is to find your gift. And the meaning of life is to give it away." Well, tonight we sit in a room inspired by Betsy Plank with 150 talented professionals who have found their gifts and are giving them away. Bill, Jeff, Cheryl, Megan, Linda, you have the gift of being a teacher, and in your hands tonight you have a compass with Betsy Plank's name on it. And that compass recognizes the great lengths you go to in sharing your gift with others. Allison Park, you have the gift of intelligence. You shared this with me the first day you walked into Hunter Public Relations as an honors graduate from the University of Florida. From day one, I will never forget how you used your smarts to invigorate our ideas, deepen our strategy, and elevate our work. Ron Culp, where's Ron Culp? Oh, hi, Ron Culp. You have the gift of generosity. For over 30, 40, 50 years, I don't know, what is it, Ron? All right, we'll go with 20. You have supported the public relations industry in the corporate, the agency, the nonprofit, and the academic world. You bring people together, Ron, with your generous gifts and your inclusive spirit, and you make this industry better for all of us. Samara and Danetta, my partners at Hunter Public Relations, you have been endowed with the gifts of humility and service to others. Every day I have the great pleasure of witnessing your gifts and how you use them to drive our business and counsel our clients and to develop the future leaders of this industry. And then there's my former boss, Barbara Hunter, my mentor, and who, like her pal, Betsy Plank, was gifted with natural leadership and an unstoppable work ethic. These two pioneering women gifted me an example that I strive to match every day. I say it again, there is no greater reward in the business of public relations than finding your gift and giving it away. I want to thank the members of the Plank Center for recognizing me with this mentoring award and encouraging me every day to share it with the future leaders of this industry. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Gary Sheffer, and I'm with Weber Shandwick. But before that, I was the head of communications at GE for about 16 years. And I'm here to introduce Megan Parker Newhouse, who's your Emerging Leader Award winner this year. And I want to tell you a story about Megan that I think says a lot about her. This was a few years ago. Megan had been promoted to a new job supporting a very demanding leader at GE, and the role focused on healthcare. A few days after her promotion, Megan and I were having a mentor meeting in the GE cafeteria, and as we sat down, I asked Megan if she'd had a good weekend. She answered yes, that she spent a lot of time reading healthcare trade journals so she could get off to a good start in her new job. And just to be clear, these health journals weren't Women's Health or Runner's World. I mean Diagnostic Imaging, Health Management Technology, and the Journal of Aging and Health. I was horrified at the fact that she'd spent a beautiful weekend reading these boring journals and that I had never thought to do so myself. I was also very impressed. This story about Megan is one I've told many times when I was out at GE to new communications hires. It's a story about the need to become an expert in your business as a way to build relationships with senior executives and become a trusted advisor. Megan, of course, hit an Aaron Judge-length home run in her new role, and today is one of the most respected leaders in GE. If Megan was in the room at a big GE event, then CEO Jeff Immelt would say, "Okay, everything's going to be great. Megan is here," and he meant it. GE's current CCO, Deirdre Latour, describes Megan as one of the smartest, most talented team members I have ever worked with. She adds, "Megan is pushing the company to communicate with realistic, direct, and transparent messaging." And I think it's really important to note that Deirdre also said, "I love her, and I consider her a good friend." And that's just the way people feel naturally about Megan. As you can tell from the story about the trade journals, Megan is all in on everything she does. She is a proud graduate of Syracuse University. So proud, in fact, that she married a guy named Bob Newhouse. Bob, I know you're watching tonight, and I hope you weren't in on this scheme from the start. It's a little excessive. When I asked her to lead GE's communications program for new college graduates, a program she herself had only recently graduated from, she became a mentor, a coach, and a friend to our recruits. As a result, I can say without hesitation that there are a couple dozen communicators around the world that owe a great deal of success to Megan, of their success to Megan. Megan went through a painful time a few years ago as her mother, Joan, a respected educator, bravely fought and then lost a battle against multiple myeloma, a cancer formed by malignant plasma cells. Again, Megan was all in, becoming a top fundraiser to find a cure, including by running the New York City Marathon. In 2014, she received the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation's Spirit of Hope Award. And the MMRF award citation says it all. Megan has touched the myeloma community with her strength of character, her kindness, and her embodiment of hope. I know Megan's mom would be very proud tonight. I see many of my friends in the room who have admirably dedicated significant time to developing the next generation of leaders in our profession. Pat, Bill, Keith, Ron, Bill, Nielsen, Mike. And when I see them here tonight with Megan, I think maybe we have gotten it right. Megan is smart, empathetic, energizing, optimistic, humble, civil. Most importantly, she is a person who has faith in things bigger than herself. Megan sees the world as it is, and as we say at GE, she looks for a better way. Like Deirdre, I consider Megan a great friend who I can commiserate with about a Yankee loss. And what's the deal with Joe Girardi today? I mean, Megan? Yes. And she's someone I can also learn from every time we talk. Megan was in the room about 10 years ago when I was screaming over the phone at a blogger. And some of you may remember the blog Jossip, which doesn't exist anymore, but had a bit of an edge. I was screaming at a blogger from Jossip about a post about GE that I hated. And when I hung up the phone, Megan succinctly explained to me the new rules of the digital age, saying, "Gary, there are no rules." And the student at that moment became the teacher. Megan, thank you for all your help to me and many others over the years, and congratulations on this well-deserved award.
much to the Planck Center for this great award. I mean, you're not born knowing how to be a mentor. It's a skill that you develop only after you yourself have been mentored. And I have been so lucky to have Gary Sheffer as a mentor of mine these past 10 years, both when he was at GE and since he's left. And I have a story from the financial crisis. And for those of you who don't remember the financial crisis, or you've repressed those memories of the financial crisis, it was one of those days when we were pretty sure that the world was falling apart. And I had a mentor lunch scheduled with Gary for that day. And I remember because I went to his assistant, Diane, and I said, well, look, Diane, it's a bad day. Maybe we should just reschedule. And Gary overheard me, and he came out of his office and he said, no way, let's go. And for all the demands on his job that day, he spent an hour at lunch helping me. And that's the kind of person that Gary is. So really, any award to me for mentoring, you should just give it to Gary for all that he taught me. And I'm just so grateful that he was able to be here tonight. I also want to thank my Syracuse University professor, Maria Russell, who advocated for me for this award. Professor Russell literally taught me PR 101, so I am forever in her debt. You know, the First Lady of Public Relations herself said public relations is a work in progress. I'd like to extend that belief to all of us as well. If we see ourselves as a work in progress, as an opportunity to always get better, our potential really is endless. So thank you for this great award. I'm so happy to be here tonight with all of you.
A professor at the University of Alabama. It is beyond my honor and privilege to be here tonight to introduce a person who has changed my life in the most significant way. This year's Bruce K. Berger Educator Award winner, Dr. Linda Hahn. Linda was my dissertation chair and has been my mentor, collaborator, friend, and part of my family for more than 15 years. And everything I know about teaching and research in public relations, I learned from her. But the strength of her mentoring goes far beyond just teaching and research. In 2001, I came to the United States to pursue my master's and PhD in public relations from the University of Florida. I expected the graduate school to be tough, but as an international student who barely spoke English, I found it was a lot more challenging than I had imagined. I hit rock bottom during those years. There were many moments I felt like I was losing myself. And during those times, I knew I could knock Linda's office door without an appointment and come in with, of course, tear-filled eyes, and she let me cry while graciously giving me a few Kleenex. And waited until I pulled myself together. She never said she was too busy to see me. She always welcomed me with her beautiful smiles. And then patiently listened to whatever was on my mind. And then she honestly shared her own personal experiences and wisdom with me, both as a mentor and a friend. And listening to her story was so therapeutic and comforting. So by the time when I left her office, I felt uplifted and ready to return to my work. Since becoming a faculty member myself, I realized how busy the academic life is. And I have come to appreciate Linda's generosity and unselfishness in sharing her time with me even more. But more importantly, though, I value her warm and kind heart. And I try to emulate those qualities Linda showed me when I interact with my own students. Sometimes I'm working hard to meet deadlines. Some of my advisors come and see me. Honestly, it is really tempting to ask them come back later. But I often ask myself, how would Linda react to the situation like this? And without a doubt, I know she would welcome a student in need with a big smile. So I do the same. Linda is a lot more than just a mentor to me. One of the drawbacks of having come to the United States from another country is not having family or friends here. I have a 60-year-old son who is my world and my happy place. My greatest fear has been thinking about, since he was born, my greatest fear has been thinking about what would happen to him if I were gone unexpectedly. At a conference, I talked to Linda and shared my fear. I said, I don't have anyone who can look after my son if my husband and I were gone, certainly. And in response, she said, what are you talking about? You have me. At that moment, I was so surprised and so touched. I was at a loss for words. I couldn't even say thank you. At that moment, for so many years, I thought that I was the one who considered her as more than a mentor, but I realized the relationship is truly mutual. She considers me and her students more than just her mentees. While I was putting together this introduction, and I reached out her former and her current students and asked them to share their thoughts about her mentoring and how she has touched their lives. Initially, I just wanted to choose a couple of them and then share them with you. But so many of them sent me touching messages. So I ended up creating this booklet. Yeah. Which contains all of their touching messages so that Linda can cherish this big moment for the years to come. And I heard a similar compliment from all of them. For example, Linda is the reason why I attended the University of Florida. And Linda continues to be a role model to me. And Linda is the most supportive mentor I've ever had. And I have to add my own compliment to those. Linda is truly a teacher and mentor extraordinary. He never questions my intelligence and my abilities for success because of my background or my language skills. Your faith in me has brought to me this far. Thank you, Linda, for all you have done for so many of us. For all of these reasons, I'm so honored to present this year's Bruce K. Berger Educator Award to Dr. Linda Hon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Young Jung. That was beautiful. First, I want to thank the Planck Center and the board. What you probably don't know is I was supposed to be here last year, and I was a no-show.
And they probably haven't told you what really happened. I tripped over my dog and broke my arm the night before the election. I guess that was Monday, and I called Carla and I said, well, Carla, I think I can walk to the plane, but I can't wear anything but a nightgown. And I was just so moved when the board had made the decision to hold off for a year and bring me back. I think that shows just how gracious and wonderful this group of people is, and I'm just so happy to be here after a year. Just like we parent like we were parented, I think we mentor like we were mentored. And so there are three very special people in my life I want to thank. I absolutely do not live up to their ideal of generosity and graciousness that they showed to me as a student. Jim and Lori Grunig at the University of Maryland were my doctoral advisors, and they took a chance on, an unknown kid and took me under their wing and opened opportunities for me, and were so kind and so generous. They really are like my second parents. A previous winner, Elizabeth Toth from Syracuse, who's now at Maryland, has also changed my life in ways that I can't even explain. I mean, she is just the epitome of kindness and looking out for people. She contacted me about editing the Journal of Public Relations Research. Again, why me? I felt very not up to the challenge and experience, but she took a chance on me, and I am so grateful for her for that, as well as many other examples. I also, of course, want to thank my wonderful students, Young-Jung, and some others, or many others, that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years. It's really an honor to be an educator. It's a wonderful way to spend your life, and I think you see why in Young-Jung's comments and the wonderful relationship that we have. And it really is two-way. Young-Jung is very modest, but she is just such a brilliant scholar and researcher. We collaborated on many papers. All of these came from her. They were her initiative. She made me a better teacher and researcher, and I'm so grateful for that and our continued relationship. Again, getting to spend your life as an educator is really a special calling, and I'm just so grateful to all of my students, and obviously, especially her here tonight. Also, I don't think anybody gets a PhD without having a lot of support along the way, so I'm really, really grateful to my family for their emotional support, their financial support, all the times that I couldn't be there, and they understood and helped me along the way. Finally, I want to especially thank Betsy Plank. To me, Betsy was just the epitome of what it means to be a wonderful mentor. It's been about, I think, maybe 20 years ago, I was a new professor, and I got the most beautiful letter in my mailbox from Betsy Plank. She had read an article I had written about public relations in the civil rights movement, and she told me how much it meant to her that she had marched in the movement, and I just was so touched. I didn't know her at that time, that she would, again, just reach out to a new professor. That was so typical of Betsy. Betsy was also strategic. She sent a copy of the letter to my dean as well, for which I was very grateful. I was just so honored when she asked me to be on the inaugural Planck Center board, and those 6 years were just a great time in my life, and I have such fond memories, and I'm so honored to be here and to continue to be involved. So thank you so much, and again, thank you so much to Young-Jung for that heartfelt introduction.
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Yankozik. What a privilege to be here tonight with so many recipients of the Plank Award for Mentoring. I have the honor of introducing my dear friend and mentor, Jeff Winton, who is currently the Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Astellas. I have worked with Jeff at 3 different pharmaceutical companies over the last 2 decades. Every day, I'm thankful that he chose me for a position on his pharmacy and Upjohn communications team in late 1998, as that offer literally changed the course of my career. I've thought a lot about what I would say this evening, as it's very hard for a communicator to condense 20 years into 3 minutes or less. Jeff Winton is well known in the pharmaceutical communications community. Everyone knows his name or has heard about him, and they smile when you mention his name. So many people who knew I was presenting this award tonight told me to make sure I said hello to him. I have observed 3 first dog at his encouragement, which turned out to be an amazing 15-year relationship. We spend more time at work than at any other activity, and although you can respect your employees' privacy, you can still be interested in them as people. As I learned from Jeff, take the time to get to know what makes others tick, as you can then tailor your guidance based on what they share with you. And Jeff, you have done this brilliantly. The third attribute is resilience. I learned from Jeff that we need to be able to bounce back, as there will be remarkable days at work when it is all worthwhile. It's a time to celebrate. And there will be really difficult days where a part of you wants to throw up your hands and quit. Jeff, you told me to stop and breathe before I did that. To sum up, I want to read you a note that Jeff left under the windshield wiper on my car many years ago, as it sums up everything that a mentor should be, and I have read it many times through the year. I want to point out that he left the note on the back of his business card on my then brand new car, which he found in a really dark parking lot. So here goes, Jeff, in case you forgot. What a beautiful car. Congrats. Don't let the team get you down. Tomorrow will be a better day, I promise. Signed, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. You were right. It was, and what a great day today is to celebrate all that you have done for so many of us through the years. Thank you.
Well, first of all, Elaine, I guess the 64-point type wasn't big enough, so the glasses came out. Thank you, Rosemary, very much for those generous and kind comments. For those of you who work for companies that require pre-employment urine drug testing, you may appreciate this. Rosemary has told me and a few other people over the years that I was the only person that she had peed for at 3 different times in her career. Evidently, that was in her speech, but she pulled it out because her teenage kids are watching online tonight. So sorry about that. Sorry, Christopher and Cameron. It was a real honor to have Rosemary come out from New Jersey to introduce me tonight. First, I'd like to congratulate the other recipients being recognized here. I'm certainly humbled to be in your company. This certainly includes the late and great Al Golan, who was a respected and admired mentor of mine. I'd like to thank the Planck Center, Dr. Carla Gower, and the rest of the team who was involved in selecting me for this award. When Keith Burton first called to tell me this unbelievable news during one of my several trips to Tokyo earlier this year, I had to ask him twice what he said, because I thought I was hallucinating due to jet lag and the 14-hour time difference. I moved to the Chicago area 4 years ago, and within the first week of beginning my job at Astellas, I was invited to attend my very first Planck dinner by my friend Lisa Ryan and Merrill McDonald.
I was very impressed with the people whom I met and with the mission of the Planck Center, and I was blown away by the hospitality and friendliness of Chicagoans. I realized that I had made the right geographic and career move that evening. I'm humbled that many of my mentors from my personal and professional lives are here tonight, starting with my mother, Elaine, my brother, Scott, and my partner, Jim. Because of these three, I've had a wonderful, fulfilling, instructive, and fun life. We just celebrated my mom's 80th birthday back at our farm in upstate New York, and I was once again reminded how fortunate I am to have been mentored throughout my life by this woman of unparalleled grace, dignity, compassion, and humility. I love you, Mom. Thanks for being here. I'd also like to thank my boss and my friend, Jim Robinson, who is the president of Estellas, and his fiancée, Bree, who are also here tonight. Jim and I had the privilege of working many years together at another pharmaceutical company back in New Jersey, and it's such an honor and a pleasure. I'd like to leave you with one thought. Mentoring starts by showing up and by being present. It comes in many shapes, sizes, and forms, and whether we know it or not, many subconsciously throughout our everyday lives are mentoring us. In turn, we mentor others without even thinking about it by our behavior, our attitude, and our actions. All too often, people think that mentoring has to be this onerous, fancy, and formal program. I've always believed that if we truly listen and watch the people around us, we will learn a great deal, and in turn, we will hopefully teach them something. But the key is always show up. Thanks once again for this honor. I'm beyond humbled.
Good evening. I'm Alicia Thompson with Porter Novelli, and I am distinctly honored this evening to present our Milestones and Mentoring Executive Award to Cheryl Batchelder. I first met Cheryl in 2006 when she joined the board of AFC Enterprises, parent company of Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Though we did not work closely together during that initial period, I watched her from afar and was absolutely admired her leadership. My first opportunity to work directly with Cheryl came in 2007 when she became CEO of the Popeyes brand. Within weeks of taking on the role, she was to address the entire organization at the annual International Franchise Conference. We met in the lobby, I don't know if you remember this, of the Swan and Dolphin Hotel in Orlando when she arrived just days before that presentation. Over the next few days, I listened on the speech rehearsals, and I remember thinking to myself, this is one bold lady. Not only was she going to step on the stage in front of 1,100 plus franchisees, restaurant operators, and corporate team members for the very first time in a few days and tell them the brand was old, tired, and in need of a major rejuvenation. And that was going to be required to make it a hot concept again. What a way to introduce yourself. And bold she was. When she stepped on that stage a few days later, she did tell the audience that the brand needed a refresh. But she didn't just tell them how she was going to do it. She talked about how we, as a collective group in that room, was going to do it. And together, we actually did. She designed the roadmap, but more importantly, she guided and mentored all of us, franchisees, operators, and team members alike, pouring into our leadership development so that we could then go back and lead our teams to fulfill our shared vision for the brand. You see, Cheryl's personal purpose is quite clear: to inspire people, to inspire purpose-driven leaders to exhibit competence and character in all aspects of their life. And anyone that spends 5 minutes, and some of you have had the chance to do that, know that she lives that purpose every single moment. Cheryl credits a myriad of mentors for her success and her own passion for mentorship, but none as much as her father, a successful businessman who instilled in his 4 children the responsibility to always treat others with dignity. She says, "My father was by far the most valuable mentor in my life. He was an incredibly smart, innovative, and principled leader. He was my greatest leadership teacher." One of the ideals Cheryl leans on for inspiration was articulated by Albert Mohler, who wrote The Conviction to Lead. He said, "Leaders are made by other leaders who go on to make more leaders." Well, I am the leader I am today because of Cheryl's mentorship. She challenged me to be a leader who gives, a leader who loves, and most importantly, a leader who serves. She encouraged me to identify and cultivate my own personal purpose, to be bold and courageous, to be confident, to be a leader of character and competence, and to put service before self. She invested in my professional development and growth, and I can't thank her enough for that investment. So on behalf of myself and the many, many other mentors, some of whom are here, that you have mentored over the years, and for those of us you continue to mentor, I am thrilled to celebrate you this evening. So please join me in honoring my mentor, an amazing leader that I had the privilege to work with and can now call a colleague and friend, Cheryl Batchelder.
This is hard. Thank you, Alicia, for that honor, and to the Planck Center as well. What a day this has been. It is really humbling to be honored by someone that you've worked with for 10 years who is so talented in her own right, a leader that I've just watched rise to the top of her field over these last 10 years. It's also a real privilege to be honored by this industry, which I did not grow up a part of, but I've always had the deepest respect for you because you tell such important stories. But tonight you've made a particular impression by hosting an event on the importance of mentoring next generation leaders, and I cannot thank you enough for that commitment. Now, as I listen to Alicia talk tonight, I'm reminded why we've had so much fun together as mentor and mentee, and I'm never sure which is which. In our relationship, we have shared some very important principles. First, our view of public relations. We both believe the best story is truth well told, just like McCann Erickson said in 1912. We don't make stuff up. We don't manipulate facts. Instead, we work with the truth and we find the most compelling way to tell it, because we have a deep conviction about the integrity of our stories. Second, we share a view about business. We are both deeply committed to the future of leaders. We've never met a person that did not deserve the dignity of coaching and development. We want to know their strengths, their values, their life experiences, and we want to help them unlock the best version of themselves. Then we share this view of the world that you heard her talk about. We think we're on this planet to serve others over self-interest. That does not mean we get it right every day. It means we aspire to the tenets of our faith, which are to do nothing selfish, but rather in humility to count others as more significant than ourselves. These views have been powerful in the time that we spent together. At Popeyes, we had this unique opportunity to establish a new culture that led to the transformation of this company. At the heart was mentorship, because our company's stated purpose was to inspire servant leaders to achieve superior results. But perhaps even more important than that, we led a class called Journey to Personal Purpose to help everyone in our company discover their calling and how they could bring their best selves to work. So I thought I'd close with the words that inspired in me personally that whole idea of purpose. It was a bit of a wake-up call. And if you're looking for it, it's on the page 1 of a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And this is when my eyes woke up.
The purpose of your life, it's not about you. Rick Warren goes on to say this: the purpose of your life is far greater than your own personal fulfillment, your peace of mind, and even your happiness. It's far greater than your family, your career, or even your wildest dreams and ambitions. Contrary to many popular books, movies, and seminars, you won't discover life's meaning by looking within yourself. And that led me to believe that to find meaning in our life and work, we must look to something greater than ourselves and a view that all these people entrusted to our care as leaders are more important than us. So tonight I think it's particularly touching that we are in the presence of a lady who had such a purpose and left such a legacy as an event as this. And we thank you, Betsy Plank. Thank you very much for this honor.
So under Alicia's name, where it says halftime, it says that I'm going to wind up the evening. I'm honored to, for the 8th year in a row, have the chance to close out the Milestones and Mentoring Dinner on behalf of the Planck Center and my esteemed board members. I want to make a special thank you to Carla Gower and Jessica White, who put tireless effort into this event, and not only tonight, but every night on behalf of the Planck Center. We don't have a big team, and they're the team. I also want to thank my long-term business partner, Lisa Ryan, for allowing me to do this, take the time out of my schedule at Heyman Associates to work for the Planck Center, and even more importantly, acknowledge Virginia Noriega for what she's done on behalf of our company and the Planck Center. And by the way, if I didn't acknowledge Virginia, everybody on the board of the Planck Center would say, wait a second, you don't do anything. She does it all. So, I would like to also ask us to give one more round of applause to Bill, Grace, Cheryl, Jeff, Linda, and Megan. They are extraordinarily well deserving of these awards, and each of them does so much for the profession that we love so much. I also want to thank, and Ron and Keith brought it up before, but our two newest board members, Leslie Sutton and John Devening, for being here and welcoming you to the board, and know that how much work goes into this organization, how grateful we are to have you. We know that the center continues strongly to do the mission of developing and recognizing outstanding public relations leaders. Recently, our 2017 leadership report card came out with its biannual review of what we started in 2015, focusing on leadership performance, job engagement, trust in organizations, working culture, and job satisfaction. And believe me, the profession has work to do. I also want to mention that last year, it was mentioned earlier tonight about the challenges for emerging leaders. I had the opportunity to be at the first one, which was held at the University of Alabama. This is as good a program as I ever attended. It's a stroke of genius on Bruce Berger's part. I think the whole group on the Planck Center board would agree that this is one of our most exciting new programs, and I want to thank Bruce and the team for creating it. Also to congratulate DePaul University having the opportunity to host it in November 9th and 10th and 11th of this year, and to thank Pete Marino of Miller Coors and John Harris of Conagra for graciously agreeing to host this and also serve as our sponsors. And we also have good news that Johnson & Johnson has already agreed to host our 2018 event, which will be on the East Coast. I want to thank Bruce Berger, especially. One of our winners tonight asked me earlier if I had a mentor, and I mentioned that, yes, I've spoken about this for many years. Bruce has been a friend and mentor for probably over 25 years. Bruce is stepping down from being the research director of the Planck Center. During the time that he has been the research director, we've had 35 research studies, which resulted in 150 works, 2 books, 12 book chapters, 30 articles, and 40 speeches at various conferences over the years. And our media coverage for the work that's done by the Planck Center has been seen from Brazil to Latvia. So we're very grateful to Bruce for all that he does. We also want to welcome our longtime board member, Brian Reber from the University, Dr. Brian Reber from the University of Georgia as our new research director, and I'm sure he will continue the legacy of what Bruce has done and all the good thinking that Betsy did that got us here today. So each year we convene in Chicago in this room, and this room was Betsy's room. This was the room where she held court when she lived here in Chicago, and she couldn't have been more proud of what we've accomplished. It's something that she's the guiding light for us, and we really feel very special to have had Betsy to start us off and to be where we are today. One of my most memorable moments of Betsy during one of our earlier board meetings was when she kind of got to the point where she said, you know, I kind of get tired during the course of the day. And we'd have board meetings that would start at 8 o'clock in the morning and go till 5 o'clock at night. So about noontime, when we broke for lunch, she'd hand Ron the gavel and say, I'd like you to lead the meeting going forward. She would wear out a little bit, but not before she had added a whole lot to the meetings. And speaking of Ron, I can't tell you what a labor of love it is to be able to work with my two very good friends, Keith Burton and Ron Culp, on this. The Chicago community should be extremely proud of these two gentlemen. They add tremendously to our profession, and especially within your community. So thank you all for being here. You've all supported this event for years, and we greatly appreciate it. I will say that I talked to Megan about this earlier. She said, I have a feeling this event's going to be different from a lot of the PR events. And I know I do this every year, but any of you that attend any PR event, have you ever attended any of these events where it's this quiet? And I don't know whether this is the Midwestern sensibility or just because what we're doing is so important, and I like to think it's both, that it's just extraordinarily humbling. So I hope you enjoyed this evening. Keep in mind that next year's event will be held on October 25th, 2018. It is in the program. And the only thing that I have to do that is a tad bit tacky is ask you to please return your name tags to the back and get home safely. Thank you very much. We want to get a group picture of the honorees, please. So all of the honorees, could they go over to the?
We're trending all night.
And Ron just told me that we were trending all night. Thank you. The honorees over to where the photographer is, please.